I Know What You Did Last Summer from 1997, directed by Jim Gillespie. Cashing in on the success of Scream and utilizing a script written by Kevin Williamson before Scream, based on the novel by Lois Duncan, the film lives on today in people like me who appreciate and have nostalgia for a movie like this. Welcome back to the Ectoviolence channel. My name is Alec. Today we're going to be reviewing I Know What You Did Last Summer on VHS. The film follows a group of friends who are haunted by a dark secret from their past after a fatal accident on a dark deserted road one summer night. As they try to move on with their lives, they're terrorized by a mysterious figure who seems to know what they did last summer. Let's go ahead and throw the tape in. The first thing we see is a little teaser trailer for I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, which this footage is actually just footage from an alternate ending that they previously shot for I Know What You Did Last Summer. There's an awesome teaser trailer for Godzilla 98 that includes Home Alone ripoff music. You get a trailer for The Mask of Zorro, an ad for Fifth Element, and lastly, an ad for the I Know What You Did Last Summer soundtrack on CD. We're gonna start out talking about the positives for this movie. The movie opens up with a beautiful cover of Summer Breeze by Typo Negative. Absolutely sets the tone of the movie. First big positive for me, the cast and characters. Jennifer Love Hewitt is Julie. Now this is one of the names you would hear all the time in the late 90s. Jennifer Love Hewitt. Jennifer Love Hewitt. Sarah Michelle Gellar had been doing Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's pretty straightforward slasher and they play the roles that were given to them and they pull them off quite well. Freddie Prinze Jr., your everyman as they were calling it, apparently he had a really bad time filming this actually. The director apparently was very vocal about Freddie Prinze Jr. not being his first choice throughout the entire process of filming.
The producers and the studio, I was their choice, but he wanted a different actor, and every single day, man, he was just on my case,
And in a more recent interview regarding this, he goes on the detail about how one day the director sent the stunt coordinator home and had Freddie Prinze Jr. jump a dinghy over a ramp that almost killed him.
We do the rehearsal, and the boat is not safe to do this jump, and I fly out of the boat, and it goes right over my head, the outboard engine, and I don't know how close it was, but it felt like it was.
That's crazy to think about, because then he would have never been Fred in Scooby-Doo. Which, by the way, there's rumors that Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar both got their roles in Scooby-Doo because of this movie. And this movie does have kind of a Scooby-Doo quality about it. It's a mystery. It's a murder mystery, which brings up an interesting point about the plot of this movie. The novel, I Know What You Did Last Summer, written by Lois Duncan, doesn't resemble this movie very much. This movie is more of a straightforward slasher, and as I mentioned before, it was written before Scream, so it wasn't like he was trying to one-up the meta thing. He was just, when he wrote this, trying to do a straightforward slasher movie. Only after Scream's success did this get greenlit. Lois Duncan is upset because she had a daughter that was murdered in, I believe, 1989. So slashers, where they kind of glorify violence, arguably, didn't really sit well with her. I feel for her because that's kind of a bummer situation to be in. Like your work is getting turned into a movie, but they're changing it so much, and it's like regarding trauma in your own life, like just sounds unpleasant. But one of the aspects of the film that stood out to me the most was its atmosphere. The small town coastal setting created a sense of isolation and unease that added to the tension of the story. The use of fog and darkness effectively set the mood for the movie, and in my opinion, it enhances the scenes and helps us reflect on the mystery. And to speak a little bit more on that, it's always interesting to see these sort of coastal towns, or, if you didn't grow up in a certain type of town, you see that in a movie. It's very interesting to see that portrayal, and it's always kind of like captures your imagination, I've never lived anywhere where I've lived near the beach like this, and it's kind of just fun. It's a little spooky town. It's like a perfect setting for a horror movie. It very much reminds me of The Fog from John Carpenter. I think my favorite line in this movie...
Kids like you should be out having fun. Drinking. Partying. Running people over. Getting away with murder. Things like that.
When the mystery's kind of finally unraveled and you're confronted with the killer here, and he says that, I can't help but laugh out loud every time. I think it's hilarious. And let's talk a little bit about this character, the fisherman, Ben Willis. It's iconic. It's obviously playing on that whole classic Hook story, that everybody tells. And you have that whole scene at the beach that kind of explains that that's what they're doing. Now I'm going to talk about some of the negatives of this movie.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Let's talk about the big elephant in the room first, the "what are you waiting for" scene. It's now known to us that this was actually directed by a child. Not the whole movie, just this scene. But it was a contest the kid won to come on and direct and create a scene for this movie. And this is what we got. Was it like in the contest rules that they had to put it in the final cut of the movie? I don't understand. This is one of those things that if you walked in on a friend watching this, you'd think they were watching a scary movie. And it's a bummer because it comes shortly after the whole crab dead body in the trunk scene, which is very good, and I love that scene. It's a great dead body in the trunk reveal, you know? The plot? It's kind of prom night. And actually, not too long after this, they did a prom night remake. So the plot's very derivative. They have a lot of things that are just horror movie cliches, obviously. Like the researching lore and backstory in the newspapers or the library, the microfiche. Having some sort of epiphany after you read these newspapers articles. None of the gore is particularly great. None of the kills are particularly awesome or even stand out to me. It's not fun like a Friday the 13th movie would be. The fireworks alley kill is my least favorite of all. They clearly just set a strobe light in this alley to simulate fireworks, but the fireworks would have to be coming from such a weird direction to simulate the light they have in that scene. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't work. It's the one kill I don't like. And that's going to pretty much wrap it up on the negatives. In addition to its impressive technical elements, I Know What You Did Last Summer also had a strong emotional core that resonated with people. The film's exploration of the consequences of secrets and lies was both thought-provoking and relatable and chilling. Looking back, this movie and franchise is definitely not as iconic as Scream, but if you've just watched all the Scream movies and you're jonesing, I would pop this in. That'll get you going just enough to get by, you know what I mean? And if you're like me, you have nostalgia for this movie, then it plays a whole nother role. This movie can be put on as a comfort movie for me. I can put it on as I'm going to sleep, to drown out the existential dread, you know? Overall, I'm a big fan of this movie, but not because I think it's great or it's a masterpiece. I definitely recognize my nostalgic and emotional ties to movies like that. It's something my therapist pointed out to me, actually. But if you haven't watched this one in a while, I highly recommend revisiting it. And I'm going to go ahead and give it 3.5 out of 5 hearts, because I love it. If you like this video, go check out my review of Scream on VHS, and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.